I want to pivot just a little bit to talk about Compliance Architect as a partner as companies face these challenges. I mean, as we discussed earlier, you really do work across the spectrum of size and scale and what they're doing. So if I'm a pharmaceutical executive who has been listening to this and enjoying this and saying, you know, she really knows what she's talking about, and I have a problem with X, or this is my pain point, what does getting started with Compliance Architect look like, and how would you partner with them to solve some of those challenges?
Well, it involves calling us. Certainly you can go to our website. Certainly you can call us on the phone. We have an 888 or an 800 number, something like that, right? But certainly it involves calling us. It then involves usually talking to one of our most senior level subject matter experts, Jack and myself, some of the other senior VP level subject matter experts that we have available. And I think one of the things that differentiates us from a lot of the other consultancies is they pigeonhole you into you're a project where you're going to ask for an audit, or you're going to ask for remediation, or you're going to ask for this service or that service, and you have people that are geared to that, and you have a lot of junior level consultants. We work a little bit differently. When I'm involved, I tend to talk to the client about what they need, and then I almost always understand in this market today, unless it's a tablet manufacturer or a traditional aseptic manufacturer or classic device manufacturer, I know they have a very difficult problem, and it's going to require an innovative way to apply the requirements to that problem. So right now I have a client, for example, that is a very large pharmaceutical company, but they're very heavily involved and invested in oncology. And they really are going to need to have a diagnostic product that will be part of the diagnosis of the type of cancer you have, the type of marker on the tumor that you have, to determine whether their therapy or therapies are appropriate for you or not. So as they develop their drug, in parallel, they will be developing this assay. An assay is a device. So it's not a combination product per se, but it's a very unique and challenging and complicated situation. Because as you begin stage 1 clinical development, you're going to be running assays to look at pharmacokinetics. You're going to be running various types of assays to determine whether the person should receive the drug therapy or not as an entrance criteria. So there are many companies, these are some of the large companies, that are starting to have what I call companion diagnostics. And they have to have a process that allows them to continue to develop their drug, which is well-baked, well understood, and well vetted, and well exercised, and now they've got to figure out how to run a parallel path with an assay that will eventually grow up and become a companion diagnostic, with labeling for the diagnostic that will say this goes with this drug, and the drug information will say you got to run this test to determine if this drug is right, or what the dosing needs to be, or at what point you might dose, etc. This is complicated. This is developing two things at the same time that don't get developed the same way. And more challenging yet with the new regulations in Europe, IVDR and some of the other things that are starting to come out, you need to be able to run that assay in a way that, and develop it in a way that it's been developed under design controls. Very difficult to apply design controls to the early development of an assay. The way the design control regulations were written, the way they've been commonly interpreted, and most of the experience in the industry is with what I call widgets and wadgets. You know, things that are metal, Teflon, and, you know, they're parts. They have electronic pieces to them. This is very different. And it's not like developing a traditional diagnostic assay, like a test for cholesterol or a test for, protein in your urine. This is a very different kind of assay because it involves a lot of research-based agents. You're buying a lot of antibodies and a lot of other very sophisticated reagents that in their own way could almost be drugs. But you're buying research-grade materials to develop an assay with that you're going to use in part of your drug clinical development program, and your drug clinical development program and results are completely dependent on this assay. This is a major challenge in this industry for companies that they're engaging in. So, you know, when I get involved in a project like that, I spend a lot of time listening to make sure that I understand what it is they're trying to accomplish. Then I think through the regulations, and then I enter a dialogue about what have you tried? What are you thinking? Here's some of the things I'm thinking. And the consultants that we have, granted, we can come along and help you do validation of a process. We can help you qualify equipment. We can help you deal with aseptic processing issues in traditional aseptic processing. But some of the things we do really well is we've got some really seasoned people, 25, 30, 35 years of experience, that have been working in industry across many kinds of delivery forms, dosage forms, devices, drugs, biologicals. And those people have learned over the course of their career how to apply the regs and how to think about these things. And I look for those kinds of consultants to work on those kinds of projects. And those are the most interesting and rewarding and fun projects, frankly, because you're advancing medical science in a novel way that hasn't been done before. You're setting precedent. And as that company continues to work with FDA, you're helping to set the future of the regulations and the guidelines. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, I can hear how excited you are about it, and I think it's exactly what we're talking about with compliance architects, that you're not just bringing in another pair of eyes, you're bringing in another pair of eyes who has been working on these kinds of projects across a spectrum and have taken lessons from that they can apply and cross-pollinate. You're really helping different companies that are all trying to do the same thing learn from each other without necessarily having to talk to each other. They can talk through the learnings that you can share.
Correct. I think the other thing that's really interesting is the best consultants are people that really know how to use Google, because the majority of the answers are out there. You know, so in thinking about some of the things that I needed to do on one of the most recent projects I'm working on, I thought, surely somebody's done this before with a diagnostic assay, some of the things that I was trying to accomplish. And sure enough, I went and looked at the COVID literature for the PCR assay for COVID and looked at how they approach certain aspects of design control, and it was all there in academic research papers. So it's very interesting, because when you want to try to bring together a set of traditional guidelines, standards, regulations, ISO, ICH, and then you have a very novel way you're trying to apply this, right? Sometimes if you go look at some of the academic research and some of the things people have done out there in hospital labs or academic institutions, you find some interesting approaches that people have applied that you realize when you read some of that and scan some of it, that's going to solve my problem. Here we go. So I think it's really important as you're doing this that you're not afraid to go into the literature and research, and you're not just going in and looking at guidelines and regulations and in a very rote way trying to apply them and apply rules. It's very important that you look at how people have approached, how do I standardize an assay? How do I standardize my cell culture medium because I'm trying to do this in this academic institution? While they may not have generated the paperwork that the FDA would approve, they've often done the work in a way that helped them substantiate their PhD thesis or do something else as a researcher. And some of the fundamentals have been figured out, and you just need to find them and apply them.